Okay. Looks like we're all ready to go. It's 1:24. We'll reconvene our meeting. Ms. Cicchetti,
Yes, hi.
if you would please
Good afternoon.
call up our next item.
The next item is item 10, Executive Director's Report. Report on the status of pending and upcoming organizational issues, presented by Ms. Stowers. Logistics.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Vasquez and honorable members. I am Yvette Stowers, Executive Director. Members, for today, I will report on a couple of items. I will provide an update on ACA 11, and then I will highlight on some upcoming meetings update of note. Members, I would like to provide an update on ACA 11. As I reported in the March meeting, Assembly members Ting, Irwin, and Petrie Norris introduced legislation to restructure the BoE. On May 4th, ACA 11 was referred to the Revenue, Taxation, and Election Committees. On May 8th, ACA 11 was amended. The amendments made changes to the operative date from January 1st, 2026 to January 1st, 2027. ACA 11 was previously scheduled for hearing in the Assembly Revenue and Taxation Committee for June 12th. However, it was pulled from that agenda and later rescheduled for yesterday, June 26th. On Friday, we received word that it was pulled from yesterday's hearing. Currently, ACA 11 remains in both committees. Members, my staff and I will continue to monitor the bill and update you on the status. Next, I would like to highlight a few important dates on the horizon. First, as you know, the upcoming 2023 Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing is set for August 29th, 2023, here in Sacramento. The hearing provides an opportunity for taxpayers, county assessors, and other stakeholders to provide comments on items discussed in the most recent Taxpayer Bill of Rights, Taxpayer Rights Advocate Annual Report, as well as present ideas, concerns, and input on the quality of the agency's services related to State Board of Equalization administration of its programs. Other meetings I would like to note is August 7th through the 10th is the Northern California's Assessors Association Regional Conference. This conference will be held in Placer County. On September 27th, the members, you will host your annual meeting with assessors here in Sacramento. And finally, members, at this time, I would like to just have a gentle reminder that as we come to the end of this quarter, at the July meeting, we will have our quarterly updates from program staff. Those updates will include budget, communication, chief counsel, and the assessment practice surveys unit. That concludes my report on item 10. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Members, do we have any questions? Oh, yes. Deputy Controller.
Thank you, Executive Director, for that report. It sounds like a lot of important dates are coming up here over the summer and into the fall. In regards to the annual meeting with the county assessors, we sent the invitation, correct? And I know we're planning on doing something for the retired assessors. So if I can request some type of list or...
Excuse me, sir, but we're not planning to do anything with retired assessors. We did that last year because we had a large numbers of assessors that were retiring. But that has not been something that we placed on the agenda that the chairman's office has indicated that he was interested in doing. But if that's the desire of the chair, we will look into it.
Well, I think it's always an honor to see that these retired assessors are honored around their colleagues and at the Board of Equalization. This is something that I think the controller will be interested in at our annual meeting, but I'll be opening that and I'll yield that to the chairman at his discretion. Thank you.
Seeing no other comments, go ahead.
All righty.
The next item on the agenda is item 11, Executive Director's Report, Extension of Time to Complete Local Assessment Roles.
Members, Revenue and Taxation Code 616 requires county assessors to annually complete their local assessment rolls by July 1st. Section 155 provides that the Board of Equalization or its executive director may extend by 30 days the deadline for an official act by the assessor. In the case of public calamity, the deadline may be extended by 40 days. Section 155 also requires that the executive director inform the board of any such extensions at its next scheduling meeting. This report is to inform you that the following counties have requested and have been granted an extension: Alpine, Colusa, Humboldt, Inyo, Lake, Lassen, Placer, Plumas, San Bernardino, Tahami, Tulare County. Thank you. Tehama. and
Tehama.
Tehama. And Tulare County. And they all been granted and requested, we requested an extension, they have been granted, and I do believe they're all in District 1.
Just about.
Just about, just about. Members, that completes my report on item 11. I am available to answer any questions that you may have.
Yes, Member Schaefer.
Ms. Stowers, is board approval required of these actions, or you're just reporting to us on what you've done?
I'm reporting, when an assessor is asking for an extension of time, either the board approves the extension or the executive director does it. I generally do it because these extensions come on a flow basis starting in January, and I approve them throughout the month, and then at the next scheduled board meeting, RCC 155 requires me to inform you guys of the approval.
Thank you.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The
Mr.
next
Kidder.
item, the next item is item 12, operational priorities. Report on the status of operational priorities, and this matter is being presented by the Chief Deputy Director, Ms. Renati.
Good afternoon, Chairman Vasquez and honorable members. I am Lisa Renati, the Chief Deputy Director. Today I'll report on some of the agency's operational priorities and projects. Since our last meeting, we have filled 5 positions. 1 was a promotion of an internal candidate, and the other 4 were new to the BoE. I'm happy to announce that one of those new employees is Mr. Ted Angelo. He accepted the position as BoE's new Chief of Legislative Research and Statistics Division. Mr. Angelo brings a wealth of legislative experience to the BoE, and we are very pleased to have him on our team. Later today, you will have a chance to meet him when he presents his report on the activities of his division. As you are well aware, in the last 5 years, we have made great strides in meeting the agency's strategic goal to revitalize our workforce and rebuild our infrastructure. This is evidenced by the fact that we have restored all essential functions of our agency. We have restored our delegating hiring authority. We have developed and implemented proven recruitment methods and workforce development plans for career growth. We are actively implementing our succession plans to ensure continuity of knowledge and mitigate risk related to the loss of experienced tax professionals who may retire. Due to these efforts, we are making steady progress to ensure our agency has the tools needed to develop the next generation of property tax experts. To demonstrate, one of the changes we have made at BoE is to ensure we meet our goals is regarding our mandated training. By statute and civil service rules, state agencies must provide employees with specific training courses on an annual basis, and courses, some courses are every other year, and some are every 4 years. The training includes important topics such as ethics, information security, anti-nepotism, and harassment prevention. To ensure all BoE employees timely complete these state-mandated courses, BoE employees complete specific portions of the mandated training at the same time. The classes are provided online, they're self-paced, and the time expended per class varies from 15 minutes to 3.5 hours. The use of this annual training cycle eliminates the need to track individual employees and their training histories and allow us to ensure that we efficiently complete this important effort. Members, this concludes my report. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Renati. I'm pleased to see that you've done such a great job in filling all these positions. You know, I know that's been a challenge, and really looking forward to your new hire, the most recent, I guess, the
Yes.
Chief Legislative Research, Mr. Angelo, who will be presented a little bit later. But, you know, when you mention your work on succession and planning, and that there's 5 generations in BoE workplace, could you give us a brief snapshot of how the generational differences impact the process and knowledge transfer moving forward?
Thank you for that question. You're right. For the first time, BoE does have 5 generations in our workplace. 1% of those are traditionalists, which are born between 1922 and 1945. So you can tell people like to stay at the BOE a long time. We still have a traditionalist on board. We have 28% are baby boomers. Those are for 1946 to 1964. 40% are Generation X, which is 65 to 79, the years that they were born. 28% are millennials, and I think we have 3% are Generation Z. So we're bringing in that next generation. Based on statistics in 2021, there are more millennials than there ever were baby boomers. So we expect millennials to be a big factor in BOE and how we learn and train people. And in general, the different generations, there's generalities, but all of them, there's different ways that they like to learn, they like preferences of how they want to have their unique experiences. And so what we're doing at BOE is recognizing that traditionalists and baby boomers may favor in-person, face-to-face classroom-style training, whereas the millennials and Gen Z like more independent training, more self-paced training, more interactive training, and then Generation X, the sandwich generation, they like a little bit of hybrid of both. So at BOE, we are using that in our training of our new employees, a training of also the assessors, and ensuring that we have a bit of both. We have hybrid, we have online, we have self-paced, and so we're making sure that we are meeting the needs of the different generations while still getting that important training done. So we are taking a look at those generations, how they learn, and in fact, one of our mandated classes that we added to the state mandated classes is generational differences, and those are for our managers and our employees. So they learn how everyone wants the same thing, they just do it a little differently. So, thank you for the question.
Thank you. Oh, Member Gaines, go ahead.
Can you repeat the percentages and the age brackets
So
you're born?
we have 1%,
Okay.
it's one person, is a traditionalist.
One person.
Born between, and thank goodness for them, because they have a wealth of knowledge. A traditionalist, they're born between 1922 and 1945. 28% of our staff are currently baby boomers, 1946 to 1964. 40% are Gen X, that's 1965 to 1979. 28% are millennials, 1980 to 1994, and 3% are Generation Z, 1995 to 2012. So we recognize that 50% of our staff are eligible to retire, but we also show that although they're eligible, people do stay a little longer. And so that knowledge transfer, we suffered after AB 102, and now we're really making all those efforts to make sure that knowledge is transferred and that the new staff that have come on board and get the training they need so they can
That's
keep
great.
going.
And Gen Z is 2 or 3%?
They're 3%, but
Okay.
that we're bringing a lot of new Gen Zs in, so that's the next generation coming in.
Wow.
So
That's great.
millennials are aging. Don't tell them, though.
They don't want to hear it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Seeing no other comments? Thank you.
Thanks.
The next item on the agenda is item number 13, Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office Report, update on activities of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office. This matter is being presented by Ms. Thompson.
Hello.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Vasquez and honorable board members. I'm Lisa Thompson, the Chief of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office, and I'm pleased to be here today to provide you with an update on the activities of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office to keep you informed. First, I'd like to share with you some statistics on the number of completed cases that our office did in last month to provide some insight on the type of these cases. The memo that's attached to your public agenda notice contains these statistics, so I'm going to go through that as far as a breakdown of the number of completed cases by board member district, as well as topic areas within the administrative and valuation category, and provide a little further breakdown for exemptions and exclusions. In May 2023, we completed 21 cases. 7 were in board member Gaines's district, District 1. 9 were in board member Lieber's district, District 2. 4 were in board member Vasquez's district, District 3. And 1 was in board member Schaefer's district, District 4. Of the 21 completed cases, 7 were admitted in the administrative category and 14 in the valuation category. The administrative category includes topics such as creating and mailing of tax bills, refunds, penalty cancellations, defaulted taxes, access to data, special assessments, or direct levies on the property tax bill. And the valuation category includes topics such as change in ownership, new construction, assessment appeals, decline in values, exclusions, exemptions, and general property taxation. With respect to the administrative category, and it's 7 in total, 2 pertain to delinquent or defaulted property taxes, 3 pertain to penalties or penalty cancellations, and 1 was in another category which dealt with the name used on a property's assessment records. With respect to the valuation category, and it's 14 cases in total, 1 pertained to actual enrollment of values, 1 pertained to assessment appeals, 2 pertained to decline in value, 3 cases addressed exclusions from reassessment, 3 involved exemptions, 2 involved general property taxation, and 2 pertain to new construction. To provide a further insight on the specific types of those exclusions and exemptions, I offer this further breakdown. For the 3 cases involving exclusions from reassessment, 2 pertain to base year value transfers for persons age 55 and over, and 1 pertained to the parent-child transfer exclusion. All of the base year value transfer exclusion cases occurred during the time of prior law before Proposition 19's April 1st, 2021 effective date for its base year value transfer provisions. 1 was for a transfer under Proposition 60 within the same county, and the other under Proposition 90 where the taxpayer wished to transfer their base year value to another county. The 1 parent-child exclusion fell under the provisions of current law of Proposition 19, since that transfer occurred on current law of Proposition 19, since that occurred on February 16th, effective date of the Proposition 19's intergenerational transfer exclusions. Thus, 1 of the 3 exclusion cases were under the purview of Proposition 19, so 33% of the exclusion or exemption cases pertain to the time of current law as opposed to during the time of prior law before Proposition 19. For the 1 case involving exemptions, it pertained to the historical aircraft exemption. To provide additional insight on the nature of cases that our office works to assist taxpayers, I offer you some additional information on a case that our office had worked on and how we help that taxpayer. An example of a case our office helped resolve involved a taxpayer who felt the disabled veterans exemption wasn't helping to reduce his taxes. We reviewed the property assessment history since the time of the taxpayer's purchase to confirm that the taxpayer was receiving the exemption, and we examined the property tax bills available online with the county tax collector's office to ensure that the exemption was applied, and to also see if there were any special assessments or direct levies that had caused the amount the taxpayer was paying to be so high. We found that the exemptions were applied, which did reduce the property's assessment and property taxes. However, there were additional charges collected on the property tax bill that were not ad valorem property taxes. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office talked with the taxpayer and explained that the disabled veterans exemption was applied, but that there were some special assessments or direct charges collected on the property tax bill from various voter-approved bonds and agency services, which were not exempt. We also explained to the taxpayer that there weren't any other exemptions available for property tax purposes outside of that disabled veterans exemption for his home. However, if he was experiencing financial difficulty, he may wish to look into the property tax postponement program offered through the State Controller's Office. The next item I would like to report on to keep the members as informed is work associated with preparing for the upcoming Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing on August 29th, 2023. Earlier this month, we distributed posters and flyers to county agencies involved in property tax system, so they could post them in public areas and have them available for taxpayers coming in their office. An LTA was also issued advising assessors and interested parties about the hearing, so they are aware of the opportunity to attend and participate at the hearing. I will update members at future meetings as we publicize the hearing over the next couple of months in advance of that August hearing at the board meeting. Finally, I wanted to share some information about taxpayer education. Our office has completed work on 2 information sheets, one on the homeowner's exemption and the other on the disabled veterans exemption. We just received final versions from our forms and publication sections on proof, and they are currently being made accessible, and they will be posted to our website shortly. At future meetings, the TRA office will provide further updates to keep you informed. That concludes my update, and I am available for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson, for that excellent report. Really appreciate the work you folks have done, especially on this whole Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, and I'm looking forward to that hearing, I guess, coming up next month.
August, yeah.
In August.
2
I
months,
guess. 2 months, but with that, let me open it up and see if there's any other, Member Schaefer, go ahead.
Yes, Ms. Thompson, I noticed in the cases for the past month of the 21 cases, only 1 was in my district. You had 7 in District 1, 9 in District 2, 4 in District 3. Does that mean we have less problems in Southern California? Or we just don't have enough opportunity to talk to the citizens? I'm just wondering, I think I should be busier.
It must be the sunshine, everybody's happy. It just varies, just every, different times. We complete cases, and sometimes you may have more in your district than you do on others, so it kind of goes.
Maybe
And
if
in the
we-
annual report, I think we actually break it down off the look, so there's some breakdown, but we help all taxpayers contacting our office.
Well, I'm trying to have one of our meetings go down south. I think that'll get a little more interest, but I do appreciate you're taking good care of us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Lieber.
And I would just note that my district is unquiet, so that may be a factor.
Unquiet.
A lot of uprisings over there, huh?
Likewise for mine.
Remember
They're
games.
vocal.
Those are pretty active. Well, you both of you have so many counties. That might make a difference too, right? Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Ms. Cicchetti, if
All
you
right. The
Bring
next
our next
item
up.
on the agenda is item 14, Property Tax Deputy Director's Report. Report on the status of pending and upcoming projects, activities, and departmental issues. This item will be presented by Mr. Young and his team.
welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chair Vasquez and honorable members of the board. For the record, my name is David Young, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department. For our report today, we have 3 items. 2 will be presented by Ms. Glenna Schultz. They will be the letters to assessors report and the training and certification report. And then our 3rd item will be what's going on in the State Assessed Properties Division, and that will be given by Ms. Michelle Cruz over there. But before I turn it over to them for their report, I wanted to provide the board with an update on an item that we've been working on for a little bit. As part of our modernization efforts, we've been trying really hard in updating what we can get on the internet and how we can make it available for taxpayers. So on that effort, we have our first true e-file and e-sign document out there. So our team has been working with our partners at CDTFA. It's been a couple-month process, but on our LEOP program, our Legal Entity Ownership Program, there's a form where entities have to file with the board in order to notify us of certain transactions. That form has been converted into electronic format a little while ago, but it wasn't a true e-file form. You can get it online, but you have to fill it out and actually email it in, and then you have to follow it up with a signature, a wet signature. It took a little bit, but our team worked on converting that form, and now it is true. You can get it online, fill it out online, submit it online, and actually sign it electronically. So it's the very first one for the Property Tax Department, I believe the first one for the BoE. I wanted to recognize our team for working so hard on getting that, making that possible, and our partners, the CDTFA. It's the beginning. We picked that one because that program only had basically one form. We did extensive testing. It's technically, it really works. You can file it, we can retrieve it, it goes to where it's supposed to and only where it's supposed to, and we can work it electronically. So that's a big win. It went live 2 weeks ago. We've already had a couple of filings, and so what we wanted to do was to get some user input as to what the user experience was, and whether we needed to basically change anything to give it, to enhance it. But it's been rolled out, it's been a soft opening. We've had a couple of submissions, and staff is working on them already, and we're looking for feedback. So that's an accomplishment that we actually were able to get done this month. Next on the docket is some forms for the welfare exemption program. There's been much talk about streamlining that process. There's 6 forms there. They've already been converted. They've gotten them up there. We're in the testing phase now, and we're hoping to bring that to the public for use in the very near future. So I'm available for any questions you may have on that. If not, I will turn it over for the next report.
No, thank you. I know that we've been working you and pushing that one real hard, especially for the electronic signatures. So
Yes,
really appreciate your work on that.
of course.
Yes, we also have controller, deputy controller as well.
Thank you, Mr. Young. That's incredible news, and I just want to applaud you and your whole team for implementing those e-signatures. If you can kind of give me an estimate or a type of percentage on how quickly or faster that returns are processed with now this e-signature in place?
We're at the very beginning stages of it. I believe we have either 2 or 3 submissions so far, but we're hoping to we're trying to realize some real efficiencies without us having to wait for the hard signature to come in before we can act on them. We can receive them. The review of them will be electronic. We don't have to, if they send in a document, we don't have to scan it and turn it into electronic form. We're hoping, just as a rough estimate, we're hoping to save at least 20 or 30% in processing time with just this process alone. So we'll see if it bears fruit. Of course, we will still have that other option available there are some folks that may not be as comfortable working in electronic format, so you always have that option. But we're hoping that the majority of our filings will come in that way, and that way staff can grab electronically, work electronically, review electronically, and send information out electronically. So, yeah.
That's some great news, and hopefully over time there's going to be more of an uptick. I was with I joined the chairman at the Franchise Tax Board meeting yesterday, and we were talking about e-filing.
Right.
It's about 93% now of taxpayers are e-filing their tax returns, and it's a number that's continuing to uptick as that trend comes along. So I applaud the board for taking initiative in this direction. I'm looking forward to the data that's forthcoming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Gaines.
Yeah, I also just wanted to thank you for this. I know it's been in the works for a while, and so we've already launched our first form. But you mentioned that there are six more coming?
There's 6 more in development right now. They're for a different program. It's for the welfare exemption program.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So
I
hopefully
probably get
we'll find more
calls
streamline.
on that. I think I probably get more calls on that than any other item. So, and I know that some of those calls are not, in some cases, not related necessarily to our action,
Right.
but in many cases, the applicant hasn't filled the form out correctly. So I think my recollection is that aren't we streamlining that form also? And making it a little more user-friendly?
You're absolutely correct. As part of the streamlining process that we went through, we did update the form. We made it a little bit more user-friendly. We revamped the way that we actually review and process the form. So it's another step in that whole welfare exemption process. With that, we've actually made quite a reduction in the processing time it takes for us to basically review and approve the form. If everything is in, we're down to about a month, and we're able to review forms as they're being submitted within the week. So we've made great strides in that arena.
Good. When you say down to a month, compared to what?
Compared to several months prior.
Yeah,
So
okay.
one of the things that was really holding things up was that, one, without a wet signature execution on there, we can only get so far before we can approve it. With the signature, that will be basically automatic. We don't have to wait for that. It also helps in our process with how it comes into the work queue. If we get to a point where the majority of it is electronically filed, then it frees up our staff from having to take paper submissions, scanning into the system, and having it basically bottlenecked that way, and getting it, and before it can actually be sent to staff to work on. So every incremental bite we can take out of that apple actually really helps. It's a couple of days here, it's a couple of days there. If we're missing documents, our system now, we're able to request and get documents submitted electronically. So we don't have to wait for mailings and the other things that would hold things up. So it's incremental, but overall, it's actually reduced our processing time and our turnaround time.
Good, that's great. And can you tell me how many forms do we have that it makes sense for the electronic signature?
We have, so far we've already done one for LEOP. There's 6 that are commonly used for welfare exemption. There is another, in total, there's a little over 100 forms the board prescribes, but the majority of those are for use by the assessors, so they may not be submitted to us. But what is required to be submitted to us, our next big bite out of that apple will actually be for the State Assessed Properties Division. They annually receive property statements from several hundred state assessees, of which we assess about 350, 340 of them. But we've received more than that. So that will be, there will be a whole class of business property statements that we're hoping to tackle next. So we started with 1, we're gonna go with 6, and then we'll go with many
That's
after
great.
that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, of
Appreciate
course.
that.
Thank you.
If nothing else, then Ms. Schultz?
Good afternoon, Chair Vasquez and honorable board members. Today, I will provide you with a brief report on letters to assessors. Attached to this month's agenda is a memo on letters to assessors, which provides a list of the LTAs that have been issued since our last board meeting. In addition, the memo provides a link to the BoE's website where a list of all LTAs can be found that have been issued to date. As of the date of the attached memo, BoE staff has issued a total of 20 LTAs for calendar year 2023. Since our last board meeting, 4 of those LTAs have been issued and are summarized as follows. An LTA to issue the Monterey County Assessment Practices Survey, an LTA to issue the final versions of Property Tax Rules 462.520 and 462.540, an LTA to issue the Property Tax Directory, and an LTA announcing the 2023 Taxpayers' Bill of Rights hearing. This concludes my report on letters to assessors. I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Schultz. I just have a couple questions for you. One is the Monterey assessor mentioned that they were unable to conduct audits on a regular basis because of staffing shortages, and that they will have a plan in the next year to remedy the issue. How can the BoE staff possibly assist or help in that?
I don't know that we can help them with that. I have not been part of that process.
Have we ever done that in the past?
If I may just offer, one of the things that we discussed earlier today was the amendment of Property Tax Rule 192, and what that does is that it actually allows the assessors, when they're unable to meet any 1 year's required audits, it allows them to basically treat it as a cycle for 4 years. So if you're required to do 10 a year for every year, if 1 year you only get 7 done, in the next year you could possibly do 13.
To
So
make
it's-
up.
Yeah, to make up a little bit for it. So there is that flexibility built into the system. We amended our property tax rule to comport to the 469 law changes that were done, so that may help.
Do we know if that was, did it happen because of retirements, or?
I think it's probably a combination of both. I think it's probably a combination of retirements and then just the tough
The workload.
hiring environment of trying to find qualified folks in order to do that type of specialized work.
And then, my other question to you was just, can you kind of go over the proposed property tax rule 192? I guess it's the audit selection that we just heard about earlier today.
The amendments to that rule are merely to conform the rule to changes to Section 469, which were made in 2018. And essentially, the 2018 change to the law was to allow assessors flexibility in scheduling their mandatory audits. Prior to that law, they had to complete a certain number of mandatory audits every year. But after that law change, which was sponsored by the CAA to help smaller counties with they can schedule all their mandatory audits at one time instead of over a 4-year period. And so the change to the rule simply conforms the rule to that law change.
Thank you. See no other questions, I guess you can continue.
I will now provide a brief report on the BoE's appraisal training and certification program. For the 2023-24 fiscal year, BoE staff has scheduled 24 classes and 3 workshops. Staff is working to schedule additional classes using instructors from county assessors' offices. We also continue to offer our existing online training courses available through American River College and California State University, Sacramento, as well as our online courses available on the BoE's website, plus our self-study training sessions also available on the BoE's website. This concludes my report on training and certification. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
I have just one quick question, then I think our deputy controller also has one. Ms. Schultz, just, and it kind of goes back to, can you tell us how the counties have been able to utilize the volunteer instructors? I know you kind of touched on it, and perhaps if there's a possibility to train and get more potential candidates wanting to become instructors, I guess.
We have utilized county instructors for a number of years now. Last year, I believe we had 3 training classes that were taught by county instructors. And they would contact us. They go through an interview process as we make sure that they have the qualifications to teach those classes, and they've actually taken our board classes. And then we work with them to schedule, and the first classes they teach will be within their own counties. So for this upcoming year, we have 6 counties that are interested in holding extra classes for their own personnel.
Thank you. Did you want to add something?
If I may add,
Sure.
our training, we haven't had a rigorous training program for county employees that want to teach our classes. By and far, because we probably didn't need it, they tend to be subject matter experts with that expertise, and that's part of their drive as to wanting to impart some of that knowledge. And basically, it's, as Ms. Schultz already mentioned, it started out with with them wanting to teach it basically to their own staff. And so since there was some extra capacity, every once in a while, we would open it up to other counties who also wanted to participate,
Thank you.
of course.
Deputy Controller, and then I think Member Gaines also had something. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Schultz, for your report. And I understand you mentioned 24 classes in this cycle. Last cycle, BoE was at 33 classes, if I'm not mistaken, and you said we're going to add classes along the way. Is that by those that by demand?
Well, we've had, since that we've had a retirement, so we have some vacant positions. So once we get those filled, then we anticipate adding extra classes to our schedule.
Understood. Hopefully, that vacancy will be filled sooner than later. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Member Gaines.
Yeah, I just was really interested in hearing that we've got 6 counties that are teaching classes to their own staff. So can you just expand on that a little bit in terms of, we are assisting them, it sounds like. Is that with curriculum, and is it with teachers?
They actually take our course, like we have certain instructors that will teach course 5 for us, so they take our course 5.
Okay,
It's the exact same course that we would teach.
yes,
They
okay,
teach it to their employees, and it's usually the larger Los Angeles, San Bernardino, Orange, Sacramento, San Francisco, Santa Clara,
okay,
are the 6 counties.
okay. And how's that going?
I guess it's doing well. They have a passing, last year, the
okay,
3
all
that
right.
were done had a passing score, so.
Yeah,
It's been going well. We're very appreciative of their participation. It really does help us and it helps them. But Ms. Schultz is absolutely correct. It's our curriculum, it's our course. It's our material, it's our test, and we actually do the corrections we actually grade the test. But they're facilitating the teaching part of it because they have subject matter experts in those areas.
sure. And is it growing? Are we offering curriculum to more counties?
We are. It kind of waxes and wanes with
Okay.
each county's excess capacity. Sometimes they find themselves with somebody with a subject matter expert in possessory interest or the income approach, and we're able to utilize that. And sometimes they're in the same boat as we are. Sometimes they don't have that extra capacity, and they don't have the same amount of expertise to share. So when we find it, we try to use it, and we try to offer as many classes as possible.
Okay. And are those face-to-face in these counties when they're providing them to their own staff? They're not online.
For their own staff, I
they?
believe a lot of it is probably face-to-face, but overall, since this COVID-19 experiment was upon us, our classes and how we offer them has actually shifted. And at first, it was a shift driven by COVID-19 and quarantining, but now it's more of a demand created shift. We find that our classes, when we offer 5 classes of a course 2, which is our basic cost class, the ones that are remote, they fill up really quickly. There's a long waiting list of 40 on the waiting list. The ones that are in person, we will probably get about half the enrollment, and it's just a different. It's a very demand-driven thing now.
Sure.
We found that it just shifted a little. Folks they're used to learning remotely, and there are some benefits financially to the assessor's offices. They don't have to pay for somebody to come, go to a different venue, take 4 days off of work and go there. They're able to either take it at home or take it in the office.
Sure.
So it was a supply-driven shift. It's kind of interesting how now it's kind of a demand-driven shift. It's just remote. We're about 75% remote now, and that's
Wow.
kind of where the numbers are
Yeah.
kind of settling down into.
Very good.
Yeah.
So we're adjusting. That's
Yeah.
good. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Schultz. Our next presentation will be by Ms. Cruz for State Assessed Properties Division.
Good afternoon, Chair Vasquez and honorable members. My name is Michelle Cruz, Manager of the State Assessed Property Division. Today, I will provide a brief update on the status of ongoing work in our division. Staff continues working to complete the private railroad car assessments for the current year. Private railroad car property statements were due April 30th, and staff have been working diligently to complete the appraisals. The final PRC values will appear before the board at the July board meeting. Staff have completed the annual allocations of the unitary values the board adopted in May, and the allocation reports were mailed to each state assessee on June 15th as required by Revenue and Taxation Code Section 746. Assessees now have a period of time to review the allocation reports and notify us of any errors or concerns before the July meeting to adopt this year's board roll of a state assessed property. Staff are also currently preparing the preliminary roll. Revenue and Taxation Code 755 requires us to transmit the preliminary roll to each county auditor by July 15th. The preliminary roll only provides an assessment total of each tax rate area and does not provide additional details that appear on the final roll transmitted to the board adoption in July. We hope to have the preliminary roll mailed around June 30th. Finally, the date to file a petition disputing a state assessee's unitary value is July 20th. We have already received some petitions for the unitary appeal season. These represent unresolved issues from the appraisal season that our staff and assessees agreed to continue working on. As a result of some petitions being filed early this year, we would have anticipated that petitions will come before the board a little earlier than we have seen in the past few years. In recent years, the first petitions have come before the board in October, so we expect that to happen in either August or September for this year. That concludes my report on the status of our division's ongoing work for this month, and I am available if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz, and thank you for your team. The work that you've done with all the assessees to handle this at a local level has been real helpful, because then it doesn't come before us, right? You're able to resolve a lot of these issues. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I think we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is item 15, Legislative Research and Statistic Division Chief's Report, update on the administrative and program-related legislative bills impacting the BoE. This item is being presented by Mr. Angelo.
The Mr. Angelo, right? Yes. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. Good to see some familiar faces. And again, for the record, my name's Ted Angelo. I'm the new chief of the Legislative and Research and Statistics Division at the BoE. Today, I'm going to provide a very brief summary of the bills we're following that could impact BoE's tax programs and administration. As has been noted before by Ms. Stowers, we're tracking constitutional amendments, which are relatively new to me, but not to this board. About 25 bills that would affect our tax programs. And we send those out to you on a weekly basis and give you an update where they are going through the process. And I'll talk a little bit about that. I'm not going to go into great detail today. As Ms. Stowers indicated, ACA 11 was originally scheduled on June 12th, was pulled the morning of the hearing. Some of you were there. Us that are used to the legislative process weren't surprised by that too much, but it's just, a walk down memory lane when things like that occur. I was hoping that would change over the years, but it hasn't. It was rescheduled for yesterday. This time we were informed the bill was pulled on late Friday. So we got a little more of a heads up so folks didn't have to jump on planes. So that's nice. Just from a overview standpoint, and those that have served, like Ms. Lieber and Mr. Gaines, know that we're going through a leadership change, and so we're going to have a new speaker soon. As the term limits have changed over the years, we have new structures and timeframes for folks that have been here, but we're going to have new people in different positions taking over committees. So we don't really know who's going to be in those positions until that shift takes place. In general, many bills that I'm getting familiar with right now on property tax issues that you've been discussing today are crossing over into their second house. I'm providing that list to you. The analyses are being updated. There haven't been any big significant shifts in the policy within the legislation itself in terms of gut and amends and things like that. But there are quite a few bills that are moving, and they're dealing with the issues with veterans exemptions and some of the things that we've talked about today, welfare benefits. So I do have the list here, and in terms of my background, I've been fortunate to work for the state Senate and also the Department of Insurance, and in the private sector for a trade association representing insurance companies on the life and annuity side. And so I have a lot of experience, but I've been fortunate to work for revenue generating agencies in the past, like DMV and the Department of Insurance. So, and we assist people with revenue generation here too. So I just didn't expect to walk into a job with a bill that was going to be calling into question our existence. So I'll stop there, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
No, first of all, welcome, and thank you for your insights. But I was wondering if it was possible to get in a little bit deeper into at least the 8 that we supported, and I don't know if you're prepared to do that. I was looking at the SB 588, for example, from Senator Allen on property tax exemption.
Okay. I do have an updated list, and for those that I can't answer today, I'll make sure and get back to
No
your
problem.
office. Our department at the board will get back to you. SB 588 passed the Senate and with no opposition, and it's in the Assembly Rev and Tax Committee awaiting hearing, so it hasn't been scheduled yet.
Excuse me, can you give me,
And then I was thinking of I was going to mention the others. You want me
that's
to?
fine,
go
no,
ahead.
that's fine.
Oh.
Can you just give us a one-liner so it kind of cues our
Yeah.
brains on what that bill is?
Oh,
I know we've heard these. I think they probably came before us,
they
but
did.
that would
The
help me.
property tax exemption one, for example, is the one that's would lift the I don't know if you want to say quota, the limit, because it was up, it was 20 million, and but it was all property. So, for example, like in LA, for example, developer might own 3 or 4 property, especially those old buildings. They can get up to 20 million real quick. And then after that, they're no longer exempt.
Okay.
So this was going to lift it,
Lift the ceiling
lift the ceiling,
for affordable housing.
as long as it was affordable housing, exactly. Then we had 2 from Wiener, the SB 4 and SB 423. The 4 was planning and zoning housing development. I don't know if you have kept up with that one.
So that one passed the Senate 33-2, and it's now double referred in the Assembly. It passed its first committee on the 19th, and it's going to be scheduled in the Housing Committee. So it's moving in the Policy Committee in the Assembly.
And then his second one was the 423, was the land use, and that was to streamline the housing approvals for multifamily housing developments.
Right. That bill passed the Senate floor and is pending in the Assembly Housing Committee and should be scheduled soon.
Soon. On this one or the other? Because I was going to write.
That was 423.
Yeah. And then you have SB 20 with Senator Rubio. That was the JPA, the Joint Powers Agreement for Regional Housing, the trust.
Right. That bill, I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes.
No opposition on that bill, and the term they use for that often is consent. If you haven't heard that term used in the legislature before, when it's proposed consent, it has no votes and no opposition. They'll move bills. It's moved on consent. So unless it should move very smoothly through the next House, unless something pops up that garners some concern.
And then your second bill was SB 734, which was the property tax possessory interest. Actually, that was heard yesterday in tax.
Yes. So this is one that was on consent
Right.
with no opposition, but because it has fiscal implications, it went to the suspense file,
That's
which
right.
in my past life used to be only used in the appropriations committees for highly fiscal bills that were all bundled up and then heard in one hearing. Apparently, over this last several years, the fiscal policy committees uses the same terminology now. So that bill went to suspense, not because it has opposition, because of fiscal concerns. And they'll have a special hearing in Assembly Rev and Tax for those bills as well, coming up relatively soon.
And then the AB, I guess it's 556, which is Gallagher, was the property taxation transfer of base year value for disaster relief.
Yeah, the disaster relief bill extension is moving on consent, and it seems to be on a quick path towards the governor's office, in my opinion. It's moving with no opposition to extend that.
And then we had the two from Art Chuleta, SCA 6, which was property taxation for veterans exemption.
And that was recommended consent, and it's in Senate Appropriations Committee, but it hasn't been scheduled yet for hearing. As of June 26th, it hadn't been scheduled yet.
And then his second one, SB 871, also Art Chuleta, property taxation for homeowners, veterans, and disabled veterans exemptions.
Right. And there are a few of those this year, and they're on the list of the larger bills, but that one is also in Senate Appropriations and hasn't been scheduled yet. But I don't believe it had any opposition at this point.
And the last one that I kind of omitted was the AB 84, which is Ward, who came before us too, the property taxation welfare exemption. Even though we support it, I know we're kind of putting that on hold because I know the assessors seem to have still some issues or concerns, so we're hoping they can work those out.
Right. And that bill passed the Assembly floor, and it will be going to the Senate Governance and Finance Committee. It didn't have a lot of opposition to slow it at this point, so if the assessors are conveying those concerns, maybe it's something that slows down in the second house, but so far it had been moving relatively smoothly.
Thank you. I think Member Schaefer had a question.
Sure.
Hi, Mr. Angelo, and welcome. I'm a state officer. I, of course, am concerned about the recall of state officers. How's that going?
If you're talking about ACA 11,
Yes.
that's what I was talking about
That was
earlier.
The first one he said, yeah.
Yeah, so Ms. Stowers talked about it earlier. ACA 11 is the one that would, for lack of a better term, eliminate, the board.
Well, no, I'm talking about SCA 1, which is more general.
Oh, SCA 1?
By Newman?
No, that one I didn't have. The three that we were tracking were SCA 4, which was the
Yeah.
principal residence, SCA 6, the veterans exemption extension, and then ACA 11.
You're talking about the alcoholic beverage tax program. I understand we haven't had any appeals or cases on that in some time. This here is just to make public determinations in excess of 50,000.
SCA 1?
SB 889,
Okay, let me just double check. Oh, our proposal.
yeah.
Oh, okay, those bills are moving.
Well, how did we get a $50,000 cutoff? And wouldn't we want all of it to be disclosed, or is there too many?
That one is out of my bailiwick for right now, because I'm not sure how that was determined when the board came up with its proposal, but maybe Ms. Renati might know that.
Sure.
I can attempt to, off of memory, but when that proposal came to the board in December, prior to this, the taxpayers had to wait 10 days, and then they'd get had to wait 10 days before they could get their money back if there was a refund amount collected in error. Now, they get their money right away, based on this proposal. So what this does is it's a technical adjustment to the law to allow taxpayers that erroneously overpaid to get their money sooner.
So this makes us more efficient.
Yes, it makes the
Yes.
program more efficient.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Controller, I believe, had some questions for you.
Thank you, Chairman and Mr. Angelo. On behalf of the entire Controller's Office, I want to welcome you to the Board of Equalization. I know your experience and breadth of knowledge will be very helpful and beneficial in what I believe is one of the most important jobs to strengthen our relationship with members of the legislature and the Capitol. I also just want to take a moment to applaud the governor and the legislative leaders for finalizing a budget, the 2023-2024 budget, all while keeping some of our most historic investments intact: public safety, climate change, housing, and not tapping into our $38 billion in reserves. Board members, if you recall, in January, we received a report out on the governor's proposed budget, and I was hoping now that we're headed towards final print that we can request some type of report out here on the final numbers of the budget, if that's feasible for the next board meeting. That would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if there's a, oh, Member Gaines has one.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for the presentation. It's very thorough. Appreciate that. And with ACAs, we got to watch those really close
Oh, yeah.
because that meeting can be called at any time. So I know you're keeping an eye on it, and appreciate that you're in place and that you can continue tracking that. And I would agree with Deputy Controller's comments about getting updates on the budget. And it'd just be nice to be kept appraised. I know that we have Department of Finance come in here every year and give us an update, and it's probably, as a matter of course, ought to do the same thing on the budget and get a review of the budget after it's been passed so we know what we're looking at.
I agree, Senator. I'll be happy if we have to do some type of motion or anything on the floor just to have that on the record. I'll refer to the legal counsel if that's an option here.
Thank you, Deputy Controller. Yes, I would recommend, if that's something you want to direct the ED to, try to arrange to have a motion.
Okay, thank you. I would like to put a motion forward to have the executive director report out on the 2023-2024 budget, California state budget, when it's in final print. I would request that at the next board meeting, but I know as going through the process, that would be nice.
Second.
So it's been moved in second, and it sounds like there's flexibility depending about when it's available, so
Correct.
it may or may not happen next month.
Yeah, the trailer bill process, we're not sure when those get finalized
Right.
as well, so there could be some timing issues on that.
Understood.
Wonderful. Thank you.
With that, do we need to go out to public comment on that? I
We're
think
going
we
to have
do.
to, if we're going to take a vote, yeah, and I'm sorry, I saw that it was moved by Mr. Emron,
Yes.
and then who's second?
Second, and Member Gaines.
Gaines, I apologize, I didn't realize it. Yes, we have no one in the audience, I believe, who wants to make a public comment on this item. Let me go out to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, is there anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment regarding this item?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press 1-0 at this time. And we have no comments.
Thank you. All righty, so we have a motion to ask the executive director to report out on the 2023-2024 budget for the next meeting.
If possible, if not, it could be the following, because it may be not in form, or at least final
Okay,
production until maybe after our next meeting, but
moved by Mr. Emron and second by Mr. Gaines. I could take roll.
yes.
Mr. Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye?
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
So that's unanimous of those present. Thank you. And with that, should we also take public comment, I guess, on the executive director's report?
That's correct.
Before we
We're
move
going
on.
to go to the next item. That's our last of the items. And yes, we're going to take public comment on the executive director report matters. We have no one in the audience who wanted to make a comment, and we've not received anything in writing. Let's go out to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, is there anyone on the line who'd like to make a public comment regarding the executive director reports?
If you would like to provide public comment on the executive director reports, please press 1-0 at this time. And we have no comments.
Okay.
Thank you. With that, I guess we can move on, Ms.
Okay.
Cicchetti.
Mhm. The next item on the agenda is closed session. The board will recess and go into closed session to discuss pending litigation matters, La Paloma Generating Company versus the California State Board of Equalization.
So it's 2:29. We'll take a short recess and we'll reconvene after our closed session. we can go ahead and reconvene at 2:47, our board meeting. And we're going to report out that we're reconvening, and there was no decision made. We were just received some information from our attorneys. With that, Ms. Cicchetti, if you would get us to our last item, I believe.
Yeah, last item on today is closing remarks and adjournment.
Thank you. Members, I'd like to just close, if we could today, adjourn our meeting in memory of the victims of this tragic violence and mass shooting on the weekend of June 17th and 18th, but also remembrance of two women who made tremendous contributions in their individual fields. We lost a very active Democrat, past Democrat chair of our local club in Santa Monica, Julie Lopez Dodd, and wanted to just adjourn in her honor, and then also the one that we've all been hearing about more in the entertainment field, Tina Turner, for her contributions in the entertainment world. First, with Julie Lopez Dodd, she was one of our very active tenant organizers in Santa Monica who rose to the occasion to become actually the chair of our club and was actually involved in our planning commission and then later became one of our elected rent commissioners. She was involved close to 40 years in our city, even though she was raised in Arizona, but spent most of her life in Santa Monica. And she lost her battle with cancer just last week. So I'd like to just adjourn in her honor. She was very active, like I said, with our Dem Club, also with her neighborhood watch and in the Ocean Park community, as well as sitting on, like I said, our planning commission. She also served several years very active in not only our local club, but also in our county committee in LA with the Dem Club. And Tina Turner, who earned over a dozen Grammy Awards and won admiration from fans all over the world. And I know she had a very rough life at the beginning, but then once she finally broke off and went on her own, went on to be very successful. And it's with sadness that we have to adjourn in her honor as well. But very well recognized and she was able to turn her record, I guess the one chart topping, the one, in the 80s that really just took off and gave her recognition and was able to receive the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Trophy just recently, and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, first with Ike Turner and then as a solo artist in 2021. She retired in 2009 after completing her 50th anniversary tour, but is remembered as one of the most significant musical performers of the late 20th century. Also, with that, I just wanted to remind, as we adjourn too, is that wishing everybody a good 4th of July coming up, and hopefully you all have an opportunity to celebrate it in a very peaceful way coming up. And many of you, I know, and I hope you all take advantage of the many celebrations that will be taking place usually in parks or your cities or counties that are done hopefully in a very safe and legal way. Because I know many times you hear about these incidents where they get out of hand in local neighborhoods and stuff, and hopefully you have the opportunity to do that. I know in our city, we actually celebrate on July 1st. It's always the first Saturday before the holiday at Santa Monica College, where we allow the community to come in and have the experience of the 4th of July fireworks.
Chair Vasquez?
Yes.
I will be riding in a parade in Coronado on the 4th of July. If any of you are down that way. I've got free passes to the San Diego Zoo, and come see the parade on July 4th in Coronado.
Thank you. Any other, oh, yes, Deputy Controller.
Thank you, Chairman. We are officially at the halfway point of 2023. I just want to say how encouraged I am of this board, the progress, the direction, the work that's been done, and the work ahead of all of us. And I appreciate all of my board members, my fellow colleagues, for their hard work in their respected districts. Just wanted to make two more points. To all the Muslim community, the Eid al-Adha is one of the most significant holidays on the Islamic calendar. It's beginning this evening, and it's going to stretch for 3 days. So I'm hoping the entire Muslim community here in California and across the country, for a matter of fact, have a wonderful celebration with their family, friends, and loved ones, eat good food, and just enjoy the blessed time. And then lastly, I just want to take a moment to recognize a new addition to the Controller's office. We have Miss Wendy O. Scott here, right here in the front. If you can wave, Wendy. Ms. Scott has an incredible experience and a breadth of knowledge that she's going to be contributing to the Controller's office. She is an attorney. She graduated from the UC Davis School of Law, King Hall. She was actually a deputy controller for taxation under Governor Greg Davis, former controller, and Steve Wesley. She was a BoE tax counsel for many years and a chief deputy to former treasurer John Chung. So if you all get a moment just to welcome her onto the team, and I'm looking forward to working with you too, Ms. Scott. Thank you, Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you and welcome. I had the opportunity to meet her yesterday at the Franchise Tax Board. And now she's here with us at the BoE, and I know she's got a wealth of knowledge, so looking forward to her involvement. And with that, I guess we're officially, Mr. Gaines, did you have something?
Yeah, if I could.
Sure, go ahead.
I just wanted to wish everybody a happy 4th of July and thank those who have served in past wars and those who serve in our military, and peace through strength. I worry about a lot of the things happening around the world, and just want to make sure that we remain strong and can defend ourselves. So thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Lieber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to recognize the passing of a notable Californian, May Lee, who was our both our oldest and our longest serving state employee. I won't say how many governors she served under, but it was a very large number. Yeah. And I think that also she was a real inspiration to women of all ages, that you can continue to pursue your passion and continue to be incredibly effective at work, no matter your age. And she was also a real living piece of history in terms of the API community.
Thank you.
No others? With that, we will officially adjourn at 2:56. Our next meeting will be July 25th and 26th. Have a safe one.